Welcome back, everyone, to another Plate Stack Chat with me, Jason, joined by Sam and Tom. And once again, joining us around the Plate Stack, we have Georgia Templeman. Georgia, welcome back.
Thank you.
Now, we had such a fun chat about bodybuilding and obviously the time and dedication that goes into training for that. And then we talked about the multiple competitions you seem to be at each weekend and the time and training that needs to go into that. Sam's at comps all the time emceeing. Tom's in different parts of the UK interviewing people in various boxes about what's going on in the UK CrossFit scene.
I think not to train myself.
There we go. Well, it's funny you should say that, Tom, because what I wanted to talk to you guys, well, to all of you, and I'll include myself here, is we're all very busy, but we also all like doing CrossFit, right? And we want to train as much as we can, but we've got families, we've got kids, we've all got stuff going on in life, right? So how do we find the time, B, maybe justify our use of time, C, not anger all the people in our lives because we're either talking about CrossFit or doing CrossFit or not doing the things that we've maybe promised we should do. The floor is open. People, let me know, how do you find the time to train? I guess that's my question.
With minimal sleep.
But sleep is so important. That's part of your recovery. That's one of the fundamental things you need to be doing.
Are you a morning training person or an evening training person, Georgia?
Evening training.
Yeah. Have you given up training to chat with us three tonight?
I have. I've had to take a rest day.
You're welcome.
Rest day? What are they?
Well, I mean, that's actually an interesting thing there because I used to train Wednesday night at 8 o'clock every week. That was my regular time to train. And I moved that to 10:30 so we can record at 8 o'clock every evening. Not every evening, every Wednesday for this podcast. So that was one of the things that was like a shift that I could make that allowed me to do both my training and to do the podcast.
I mean, that's pretty cool, Jason. And like say, it's a shift. And you said it's something that you are able to do, right? And that doesn't mean that, it's easy. And I know you'll then have to arrange around work, around childcare, around everything like that. So, but there is that kind of I guess it's about, and you could have just said, you know what? I'm not going to train on a Wednesday because I'm now typically recording a podcast on a Wednesday night. But instead, what you did is you decided that it was still a priority for you. So you shifted it around, which I think speaks to how important it is to you, right?
Yeah, but it's also because on Thursday, I cannot train with my work, with the schedule I have and stuff going on a Thursday. There's literally no time that I would be able to get to the box when it's open. So I know for a fact I can't train on Thursday. That has by default become my main rest. I say rest day. I'm working all day. It's not a great rest, to be honest, but it's the one day I don't go and train. So knowing that, I can't then be like, and also Wednesday evening, maybe I'll take that off as well, because I know then now it's Wednesday and Thursday. And then I typically don't train at the weekend because that is what I put as family day, so that's when kids aren't at school. That's time that I need to dedicate to the family. So I kind of, I guess I look at it more as the week versus the day, if that makes sense, kind of making sure that there's balance within my week, and that allows me to train at least kind of 4 times a week, which Georgia probably thinks is nothing. 4 times.
I was going to say, Georgia, when, how, and what do you train, and how? So many questions all in this one thing, and this is kind of for everybody, but I'm pointing it at you first. When do you train? Who looks after your little one when you train? Is that an issue? Does that do you have to weigh those options up?
Yeah, so I train usually about 8 till 10, Monday to Wednesday, and then Friday nights. And then Saturday and Sunday mornings, I try and get in for an hour to an hour and a half as well. But yeah, so my son, he's in bed when I go at night. So I'm quite lucky that I've got a really supportive family around. So they help with childcare.
Yeah.
You say help with childcare. I mean, they sit and look after a child that's asleep.
Yeah.
It's not.
Well, as we know, they don't like to sleep the whole time. That's one of the big problems.
We had an episode a couple of months ago that Harvey just walked in, didn't he?
Yep.
But is he likely to do that this evening? Is he already asleep, or
He is. He's already in bed.
your one's
But,
mine were being put to bed as I hit record, so I'm not 100% sure. But actually, it's like a similar thing. So like the Wednesday, when I say I used to train 8 o'clock on a Wednesday, that was a shift, because initially I used to train in the morning on a Wednesday. Going back a few years, and then when we were expecting our second child, so when Emily was coming along, I just couldn't be out in the day that much. Like, I needed to be home. And then obviously when she was born, what was great was I could do all the dad stuff in the evening, have that all done, put the kids to bed. Right, you've gone to bed now, and then I can go off to the gym at 8 o'clock. So that's when I started training at 8. And I still do that. So like Monday and Tuesday, I'm still training at 8 o'clock. But Wednesday I go morning, and then Friday I go morning. It's an almost perfect schedule. The only problem is like training Tuesday night and then Wednesday morning is awful. It's really not enough time to recover between workouts, I'll be honest. But Wednesday's usually Olympic lifting, so it's fine. It's never too strenuous. But again, that was the balance I made. I have a question for you about training at 8 o'clock though, Georgia, because a lot of people don't like it. I do like training in the evening. This might be a more me thing than you thing, but I find by 8 o'clock in the evening, I finally warmed up. Suddenly I'm feeling loose. I feel like I could. That's why I find when I train at like 10:30 in the morning, so not super early, but I've got a lot more energy, but it takes me forever to like warm up and kind of feel loose again, and like I can move. Whereas 8 o'clock in the evening, by then I'm a bit tired, but I definitely feel like I can drop into the bottom of a squat at a moment's notice.
That explains why you've got an ass to grass squat, because you spend all day mobilizing. I want to train with you at 8 a.m. and I want to see you like not be able to break parallel.
The Tin Man.
We say that, that I train 10:30 on a Wednesday. So today, not only did I have to we're doing snatches, but Ollie was coaching, and I had flashbacks to my days on the demo team when I had to demo today the overhead squats in front of all the class. So that was no pressure.
So I'm gonna jump.
Hang on. We asked Georgia a question and then didn't allow her to answer.
All right.
So how do you train at 8 o'clock? Do you feel warmed up for it?
No, because I sit at a desk all day.
Oh.
So I used to train at 6 a.m. when I was doing the classes at the gym, and I loved it. Like, I'm one of these weird people that a 5 a.m. start just really agrees with me. But then I was in bed and asleep by 8:30 at night.
Oh, there we go.
There are not many. There are not many times I'm speechless on this podcast. That's got to be one. I'm a 5 a.m. person. Nobody is a 5 a.m. person, unless maybe you're Ian from CrossFit Glasgow, who just decides he wants to go to bed at 1:30 a.m. and wake up at 4 a.m. because that's just what he does. Because he's crazy.
You say nobody's like that, but I'm pretty sure my daughter's like that. So maybe.
Yeah, true.
Maybe.
Ian from CrossFit Glasgow is your daughter.
Yeah.
Another Ian and Gav.
Plate stack checks exclusive once again.
It's not Ian from CrossFit Glasgow either. It's actually Gav. Ian's far nicer.
More reasonable.
Gav's the crazy man.
Okay. So I was just going to follow up on, because you said you used to train at 6 and now you train at 8, and I was just wondering what forced the change.
So I went on to Bespoke programming, so away from the classes, and it was the box I'm at. It's not huge in the class area, and as they've gotten busier, they've had to expand into open gym. So they stopped us training in open gym, so we have to do it around class times now.
So that just tells you how busy their 6 a.m. class must be.
Oh, it's always full.
A lot of mad people.
To be fair, our 6 a.m. class is always full. Our
Yeah.
6 and 7, 6 a.m. is always full unless you've booked a week before. 7 a.m. normally has 1 or 2 spaces left, like the night before. But like that's like 14 people, 16 people in a class at 6 a.m. You crazy people.
Yeah.
I tried it for a while. Well, I put out a post a little while ago on Instagram. I didn't know about trying to work out the life training balance and what that looks like. And I just realized very quickly that 6 a.m. is not a time that I want to train in the morning, because it means I have to get up at like 5. No, just give that a miss. Swerve that.
Yeah. I've done the odd class at 6 a.m. and yeah, I did not enjoy. I don't enjoy any kind of heavy weight at that time of the day. Like doing some cardio is fine, but as soon as you started having like heavy thruster at 6 in the morning is insanity. And I again, CrossFit Bath 6 and 7 a.m. You've got to book in like immediately, otherwise you're not getting into the class. They're always full, and I like to make fun of people that train at that time, how mad they are, and it's insane. Honestly, I can't train at that time because even the 6 o'clock class wouldn't finish early enough for me to start work. So that's the kind of, again, the real reason I don't train early in the morning. And if I am free to train at that time in the morning, I'm probably going to be doing the school run and stuff as well, and kind of trying to help at home. So yeah, I find out a lot of it is not choices that I'm making. I think the choice comes in where I'm like, okay, I could train now 6, 7, or 8, and I'm choosing 8. And I'm choosing 8 because honestly, it's a more relaxed class. People that are there are kind of just happy to be there. It's not people like George, you're not going to like any of this I'm about to say, but it's not people that are going absolutely mad in their workouts trying to, smash everything. It's just people that are like, oh, I'm just glad I got to the gym today. I'm going to try my best, and we'll kind of have a good time, and we go home smiling. And there's not the pressure to be an amazing athlete every workout that you might find at the 6 a.m. class, for example.
But you all trained, so you obviously the open gym times, I guess, are 8 till 10, because there are no classes and they're probably like clearing away or whatever in that time. But I'm going to open it up now to give a shout out to whoever does your programming. So feel free to do that. I see, was Freya programming your weightlifting for a little while?
Yeah, during lockdown.
She was your online coach.
She was, and we did a couple of one-to-ones as well when that opened.
Do you live nearby then? Do you live near her? I guess you
about
don't.
An hour.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, not too far.
Cool.
Are you a fellow Yorkshireman, Yorkshire person?
Yorkshire lass.
No, I'm Lincolnshire.
Okay.
But only just.
Yeah.
But who train? So who are you? Who is programming? Are you following at the moment? If not, or is it someone from your box?
No, so it's Sam Long from CrossFit Witham.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
That's cool. And what CrossFit box do you go to currently?
CrossFit Spalding.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
I want to know about Tom, because he's been very quiet on all of this. So I think Tom is the only one of us that has I'm again making assumptions. I really shouldn't, but Tom has a very well kitted out home gym as well. That we're all jealous of, but we all know that even if we had, we'd never use. So
amen.
So but I know you like to be in the box, and you've probably do a lot more drop-ins than we do in a kind of not when you're on holiday. I think we all kind of try and do that, but you are, with the nature of Chalking Fitness and kind of trying to go around and see people, and I know you like recording in person as much as possible, gives you the opportunity to kind of do a lot of drop-ins and go to different boxes. How are you like balancing your training, making decisions about when you're going to train, why you're going to train? Like I guess it's shifted a lot, especially the last couple of months for you have probably been tricky.
Yeah, I mean, you make a,
and I only
really
say that because
question.
of how big Chalking Fitness is becoming. That's obviously what I meant when I was saying that.
No, the reason I've been quiet is I'm really intrigued to hear you all talk about how you manage to make time for your training. And I think that's the key thing, is you're having to make time because you've got kids, you've got jobs, you've got other responsibilities. And I mean, you kind of mentioned that, oh, Tom's got to get imminently expecting when we're recording. I know this is shattering the myth that this was recorded recently, but it's my wife and I are expecting imminently. But you're not the only people I've spoke to when I'm like, how on earth do you train that many times a week when you've got kids, just to kind of be very specific. And one of the things I was just reflecting on why I was being quiet is that one of the challenges I have right now is I have every opportunity to train. Yes, I have a job. I work in an office all day as well, Georgia, right? I'm sat in the desk that I sat down at 5 to 8 this morning and have only got up to kind of go and eat and go to the loo, right? I am sedentary like most days of the week and a lot of the weekend, increasingly so. But I have every opportunity, not just because I don't have kids yet, but equally I'm very fortunate to have a gym membership. I'm very fortunate to be able to leave work and then could go to the gym. I've got a garage gym, as you mentioned, and forgive me, I'm being cathartic here, just working through in my head is that like I've
missed you being cathartic, by the way. It doesn't happen often enough anymore.
I'm almost spoilt for choice, and thus I can always say, oh, I'll train later, oh, I'll train tomorrow, oh, I'll train at the weekend. And I won't, and I'm just not disciplined enough to be like, no, I'm going to train now because I can't train later. At the moment, that's not the case. I can always train later. I never do because I'm sitting on a podcast recording or editing, and I prioritize other things above my training. So that was a long amble. The short answer to yours, like, how do I fit my training around? At the moment, just moving and sweating will be enough. And I don't do that as often as I'd like. So I'm not training. I definitely don't have a program that I'm following religiously or anything right now. And I'm really intrigued to see how that will change next year. I'm terrified to some degree because then there will be something else that really takes my time. And it'll be really interesting to see what priorities I start making. Will I stop podcasting as much as I do? Because I know I need to have some training in there and my time is going to be otherwise taken. So that's why I'm being quiet, is I'm really thinking about it.
you might find that, having a baby and the weight that puts on your time and the constraints that you have, and doctor's appointments are fixed times, other things you've got to do are sort of not so easy for you to move. It forces you almost to make those decisions. Like for me, the best thing that happened to my training was when CrossFit Bath implemented that you had to book into classes. When you could turn up for a class or not turn up for a class, it was easy to not turn up. When you have to physically cancel a class because you're not going, it's much, much harder. And because you need to book in a few days in advance, I know, well, these are the times I train and I book in. And when I start organizing other things, that time's blocked out because I can't be like, oh, well, if I don't get to that one, I'll just go to another one. When we were in lockdown and you could kind of train whenever, I hardly ever trained. I found it really hard for that very reason of being able to say, oh, well, I can always do it in half an hour, or I can do it, in 20 minutes time. And you've got, in my case, lockdown with the kids. So it's sort of like, it's one thing to be out at the box and I can't hear what's going on. It's another thing to try and sort of be in another room, start a workout, and then hear, World War III kicking off in the other room and being like, yeah, I'm sure she's got that. That'll be fine. You feel like you need to go and intervene, right? You need to check in, make sure everything's okay. Sometimes when we're busier, it does help us, right? It sort of makes you make those choices. And as to talking of like priorities, I guess, again, like we've spoken again in the past when we've talked about why do we train? Is it because we want to look a certain way? Is it because we want to perform a certain way? And generally it also comes down to how we feel and how training makes us feel, and longevity, and being able to, we're talking about a newborn now, but we know you're going to want to be able to play with your kids into older age, I suppose. So training probably will be something that you prioritize for that reason. And I'm sure when you put like all of those things together, yeah, maybe training will look different and it won't be an hour in the gym or 2 hours or whatever it may be. It may just be 30-minute blocks. You can accomplish a lot. Like if CrossFit's taught us anything, it's that you can accomplish a lot in 20 minutes, right?
Yeah. If I get more,
Georgia, don't look at me like you don't need 2 hours to train. You're overtraining.
I'll be honest, and this comes back to what we were talking about earlier. Like if I'm going to stop, because what it is I don't prioritize it because I always think I can do it later. and then time gets away from me, and then it gets to 8 o'clock. I'm like, screw that, I'm not training now.
So the best time, I've told you.
So if I'm going to prioritize it, it's going to be I'm going to become that morning training. But the only way I will be able to do that is by going to bed earlier. The only way I'll be able to go to bed earlier is by, juggling around like when I'm doing like non-training stuff. You mentioned there around how like booking classes is something like that's really helped keep you accountable. Georgia, you mentioned now you're doing like your own bespoke programming, so you're using Open Gym. Are you still, I mean, it sounds like Open Gym is gold dust as well, so are you still like booking on, and does that keep you accountable? Is that something that works for you?
No, so we don't have to book on. It's regularly just me in there in the evenings, but with having the coach and the one-to-one there, I've got him checking in on me, making sure I'm doing it.
Okay.
Do you ever test him? Do you ever just do something deliberately so wrong because you just want to see if he's really paying attention to what's going on in Open Gym?
I did with my old coach. Just send him completely random videos of what I've done. And he's like, that wasn't programmed.
Oh, what?
QC, quality control, that.
It's interesting that I love it when you're cathartic, Tom. And I guess maybe we haven't had the topics for it recently, but the experience has told me that children change your perception of training. Certainly, that's my personal experience. Like, obviously, I'm a bigger guy, blah, 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 all that rubbish that comes out of my mouth generally. But and I started training, as we all know, because I wanted to look like Matt Fraser. Very quickly became evident that I was never going to look like Matt Fraser without much plastic surgery. But now I go, sometimes I go to the gym because my daughter has said, Daddy, are you going to the gym today? And then I'm like, wow, that is, I'm being called out by my 4-year-old at this point. Like, wow. She's like, but then she's like so stoked on it. Like every Sunday mornings when I go, if I'm not at church, I'm at the gym normally. And she'll be like, Daddy, can I come to the gym with you? I'm like, oh, I'd love, the honest answer, when she comes to the gym, she doesn't watch me in the gym. She doesn't really watch the gym. She watches her tablet, which is why she wants to come to the gym with me. But she does love coming to the gym. Like she loves, as you've talked about before, Jay, it's like Harvey running around swinging on the rings and, picking up the 1 kilo dumbbell. Or, I mean, for Harvey, he's a tank now. So he's like,
yeah, he's got to be at least at the 5 kilo by now.
Yeah, well, probably 10 nowadays. But for me, it's training. I don't just train for me anymore. Like I do train for my two, for my wife, so I'm still mobile. Like, yeah, yesterday. Well, today I'm a bit gutted because I did prioritize the children and my wife after having recorded on my wedding anniversary, which didn't go down great. But yeah, today we did the bedtime and dinner and then jumped on the podcast. But I missed out on heavy grace today, which was cheesed off. Not cheesed off, but I'm gutted that I missed that. 30 clean, heavy. It was heavy as well. 30 clean and jerks for time. RX is 100 kilos. So I was like, I wouldn't be RXing probably. I may be close on there or thereabouts. That's like 1 RM. So I'd probably be doing like, yeah. But anyway, but the what I'm getting at is the fact that you will prioritize different stuff, and you'll probably surprise yourself at what you then prioritize. When we're not in some like crazy COVID universe where lockdowns are a thing and you have to train at home and you Zoom classes and all that sort of rubbish. Because actually I didn't train at all during lockdown, because if I had to do another thing on Zoom that wasn't podcasting, I'd have gone crazy. Because we all had enough of Zoom quizzes and Zoom wine tasting sessions and Zoom this and Zoom that. It's like, I don't want to do anything else on Zoom. So I was like, I'm not into this, and I don't enjoy training on my own. I enjoy training as part of the community. So now I'm making different choices, and I've surprised myself with the choices that I make. But I guess that is a question again for you, Georgia, because and maybe for you as well, Tom, so that you train separate programming to what is programmed at your gym. Like, we talked on the last episode about, bodybuilding and like training sort of solo, and that the bit that you loved about CrossFit was the community, but now you're kind of open gymming, and you just said like you train on your own quite a lot. Obviously there's a coach around, but do you ever sort of drop into classes, or is there like a Sunday Metcon that you'll shoot into, or, because obviously you have pals that you train with, because you compete with your pals as well. So.
Yeah, I often jump in on the Saturday morning because it's always a pairs workout. So that's a nice one to do. And then again, I go over to Mercia to train with Jess as and when I can.
Okay, that's cool.
I have something I'd like to pick up on something that Sam said that gave me some flashbacks to a previous episode we'd done. See Tom's opinion on it, and then I've got a follow-up question for Georgia. So I'm just giving you the roadmap of my mind now. So basically,
mate, you should host podcasts.
Shouldn't I? So we talked about doing it for our kids, and usually when people talk about like doing it for your kids, it's the idea of longevity and being able to play with them and run in the park with them. But I remember when we were talking with Roy Stunn, and we were talking about the example we set for our kids and them associating fitness as something we enjoy, and it's something fun, and it's not, oh, I've got to work out and try and stay fit. And like, that's why people kind of hate, we're in January now. How many people have kind of signed up for the gym because they feel like they have to go to the gym now, and they have to, start new year, new you kind of thing. And we know that's, they don't like being at the gym, and that's why in February they're not there anymore. Whereas we're training throughout the year because we enjoy it. And that's what we want our kids to see. Sam mentioned like Harvey, he now does CrossFit Kids. He enjoys it. But even Emily, who's too young to do it, like today, I went and did the changeover with my wife. So I took Emily down there. She knows where we're going. She'll say, are we going to CrossFit to get mum? Yes. We go down, and then, all the barbells are like laid out for the class. And she was like running down the box, jumping over all the barbells. Like, she loves being active, and that's great. And that's like the example you can set. Right. So I'm wondering, Tom, with you as well, when, knowing that you're not just, you're not just a dad in the sense of, well, I've got to look after someone, but it's kind of, you want to be a dad, somebody to be looked up to, right, and set a good example, and whether or not that's also going to be a priority for you, because you're going to think, well, I want my, and obviously a baby's a bit young to realize maybe what's going on, but it doesn't take long for them to start to know where dad is and what dad's doing. And I kind of also wanted to link that to you, Georgia, because I know you said that you train in the evening when your son's in bed. But I did wonder what his, if you've had any kind of feedback from him about what you're doing with the competitions, with the training you do, even with the bodybuilding before. Does he like appreciate what you're doing?
More so now, yeah, because he goes to CrossFit Kids as well. So he's now starting to understand more on what I'm doing.
Oh, maybe they'll be throwing down in the same competition one of these days.
Oh.
Well, that's funny. Harvey's been on the competition floor before me, because he was at the Sid's Sid when they did the CrossFit Kids demonstration. He was there doing that.
Crushed it.
Dad wasn't. Dad was just taking pictures of people far fitter than him. That's what he was doing.
We need like a fun team of 3 competition. Just trying to think of one. I wonder what we could do. Waterpaloozas. Team of 3.
There we go. Why not? Let's just
fun,
do that.
light, easy, entry-level team of 3 competition. Waterpalooza. And if we're good enough to go, maybe we'll be ranked on Fantasy Fitness. We can finally find out our dollar value.
We can get Plate Stack Chat branded swimming trunks as well for the swim.
Yeah. Plate Stack Chat budgie smugglers.
Yeah. Well, we have to have a word each, and then when we're stood
together. Yeah. I'm intrigued. You obviously asked Tom the question. That made me ask myself a question. Like, where before I'd had Esther, was I thinking about any of the things that we've kind of just posed to you, Tom? Almost like, and is that something that is not just CrossFit related, but obviously you do sort of start asking yourself questions when you are going to become, or when you become a parent. Like, are they things that you're thinking about, Tom, or are we imposing things that we think because we thought that we thunk, if that makes sense?
It absolutely is, and like, Georgia, it's fantastic to know, like, your son's doing like CrossFit Kids, and my wife and I both have a personal love for fitness, and I think we've built this garage gym over years, and there's always this kind of, we always joke about having it when we have kids, like them being in there with us, right? And I love hearing the stories you're talking about, right? Whether it be Harvey out in the competition floor, or someone like Peter, who runs Coffee Pods and Wads, right? He always talks about Sloan copying him. And I think it's so early that your children, I imagine, start to pick up on your habits and your traits. And that's something that's really important to me, and actually when I first found out that, like, we were expecting, I was like, right, I've got 9 months, however long, to get myself in the best physical and mental place possible to be the best kind of father and role model I can. And so I do think, for me, and I really appreciate the kind of the questions and the conversations we've had here, because it tells me, no, I will find time for it, because it will be important, not just for me, but for my family, both directly and indirectly. I'm in my kind of like, very quickly approaching my late 30s, and it's going to be important that in my late 40s, I'm able to kind of be active, like, whether it be if we still do kind of a sports day by that point, I want to be able to be in the whatever race and not just pull a hamstring.
Hey, the dad race, handstand walking. Like, yes, come on now.
Hey, I've still got a long way to go before I can do that. But no, that's really important to me. And like, I don't know whether I've shared this, but we're expecting a baby girl, right? And I think it's so, and that's so important. I want her to grow up where, surrounded by inspirational women, strong women, thinking, that's what I want, because I think there's great value in that. Not just, and that's not been like, oh yeah, going to the CrossFit Games. I'm like, no, doing it for like the kind of mental and physical wealth, really. So that's health and wealth. So yeah, no, I will. And actually, I do. The other thing I want to say as well, and this is kind of going off on a question you haven't asked, but when's that ever stopped me, is ironically, when I talk about how I often deprioritize training and I just run out of time in the day, the time when I just get, and Jason, you mentioned this, it doesn't have to be 2 hours. It can be 20 minutes. It could be 7 minutes. It could be whatever. 7 minutes of burpees is when my wife is like, we're doing this today. We're going out for the day. That's the time I get up early and train, much to her annoyance sometimes, because I'm then I'm sweaty and need a shower 10 minutes before we go. But when that constraint is placed on me, I find a way to make sure that I get at least something done. It's almost when I'm given too much freedom that I then go, I'll do it later, and then don't.
Well, my only thought on what you said is, when you start going through prioritizing the things that you need to cut out to make sure you've got that time for training, because you've seen how important training is, remember that it was this podcast that made you see how important these things were, and that giving up this podcast could potentially be quite damaging to your mental health. So
I will.
One of the things that I find, just quickly, I find that going, I mean, obviously don't have a home gym, but going to train it encourages me to train. So the fact that if it goes back to, if in lockdown I had a dumbbell, like, you could do burpees for days, but the accountability of going to the class with other human beings and saying I'm going to this class is a useful thing. Would I have trained if I had my own gym at home? Probably not. If I had like 10 people in and we were all doing a workout in my home gym, then yeah, of course, that'd be wicked. All come over my gaff and we'll all train together. Like, that'd be brilliant.
But I think as well, that going to the gym, and I mean, and this will be where there is an overlap even with what George is doing with the having your own programming is that you go knowing what you've got to do. You're already given this is my programming. I've got to go in. I'm going to go in and get this done. It's even more so with classes because literally it starts and ends. You've not got any, you need to be there at this time because that's the time the class starts. And then it finishes at this time because the next class is coming in, or they're kicking you out because they're closing the gym. And it means that, I know I'm, lucky to live literally a 5-minute walk from the box. So for me, it is like an hour and 10 minutes and maybe another 10 minutes of chatting, but that's like an hour and 20 minutes to go get it done and be back home. Whereas I could say, well, I'm just going to do a 20-minute workout at home. Right. What am I going to do? Let me think. Let me plan something. Okay, I'm probably going to do this. Maybe I'll do that. I don't know. And it's like you've got half an hour to watch something on Netflix, and then you spend an hour looking for something to watch on Netflix. Right? That it's not the time of doing the thing. It's that kind of all the time in between. So I think sometimes that can be the problem as well, because you've talked about being on different training programs in the past, Tom, and like following this one's programming, or then maybe following that one. And sometimes that's also a problem, right? It's kind of, you've got so much freedom to decide what to do that it takes you just as long to decide what to do as it does to actually do the workout. Whereas I turn up and it's on the whiteboard and somebody's telling me, right, start warming up now. This is how you're warming up. Now do the workout. Now do the cool down. Get out. Pretty much like that. I was going to say not quite like that. Yeah, pretty much like that, to be honest.
Georgia, how do you find, like, so I mean, you've got your one-to-one coaching and stuff, like, so you're pretty set on where you're going to do that. Are you pretty good at being able to like take opportunities to train when they arise as well? Like, whether, if like, you're visiting friends or family or whatever, can you just kind of like be like, oh no, you know what? I've got an hour, I'm going to do this or whatever.
Yeah. We went away a couple of weeks ago and I just let everybody know that we were there, that I would be disappearing for an hour and a half to go train. And then by the time I got back, they were half cut.
And there's the contrast of fitness life and sort of party life.
And it was 10 a.m.
No, it was 6 a.m. She told us she likes to train early in the morning. That's an interesting point though, because I guess a lot, as Tom, you mentioned that like your wife, I know she doesn't do CrossFit now, but she's very into fitness. Rochelle does do CrossFit and the kids do CrossFit. And you told them that like, oh look, we've gone away, but I'm going to go and do this. What's kind of the reaction? Because the only time I've done it, I went on a holiday with all my, so it was like grandparents, my mum, my brother and his wife, like it was a whole thing. We all went down there and I had scouted out that there was a box like a 20-minute drive from where we were staying, and I just let everyone know, by the way, I will be leaving to go and do this. And it's like, for them it is insane, because it's like, you're on holiday, what are you doing? And they don't understand that, yeah, I'm on holiday, this is like part of my holiday is to go and do a workout over here. Like, and again, going back to last week, like you were doing bodybuilding, which is, we've talked about like the dedication needed there. What do your friends and family and that think of your kind of fitness lifestyle? Are they all as mad for it as you? Do they think you're insane? Do you even know because you have never asked and you don't care? I don't know what the situation's like.
Yeah, no, they definitely think I'm insane. And I can remember one day when I was prepping for the bodybuilding competition, we went out for a meal and I took a Tupperware container with my weighed out chicken. So I ordered a plain salad and asked them to microwave my chicken and just put it on top. And
did they microwave the chicken?
They microwaved the chicken for me.
That's good. I'm impressed. They accommodated that.
Everyone that I was out with were just like, why? Like, why do you need to do it? Like, they didn't understand that to be all in, you have to be all in.
Ooh, that's the reel for the show right there. To be all in, you have to be all in. Yeah.
See if we can.
You were obviously all in then, having taken your own Tupperware box of chicken. Excuse me, waiter, could you come here? Yes, I was just wondering if could you microwave my Tupperware pocket of chicken? Yes, thank you. I'll have that back. 2.5 minutes. Oh, what's the wattage? 800. Make it 3 minutes. Thank you.
Did they charge you? That's what I want to.
No, they didn't even charge me for the salad. I think they just felt sorry for me at that point.
Wow. Okay. I might try that.
Yeah.
Just go into a restaurant. Excuse me, can I just have a plain salad?
Yeah. I might
in fact,
see
that's
if it
stupid.
works.
That's a stupid thing to say. I'm not going to walk in anywhere and order a plain salad.
Sam, you need to see if it works the other way. You might need to just take in your own little pot of salad and just get a whole chicken and be like, do you mind just putting this little bit of salad on the chicken, please? And see if you get free chicken.
Mate, I'm all over that. Over that.
Okay. Well, I was just curious. It's been an interesting chat because, again, we all train. We train at slightly different times and for different reasons and to different degrees as well. Some of us are insane and they train for multiple hours a day, Georgia. Others are more normal. And some of us are, trying to find the 20 minutes in our day when we can train. And that's, but ultimately, I guess no matter what you're doing, it comes down to what you're able to do due to kind of circumstance. Because like, I've no doubt if you could train for 2 hours a day at a box, you'd be doing that because you'd love that.
I always train a lot when I'm on holiday because thankfully we typically go somewhere near a box, and then I negotiate that kind of like, you know what, I'm going to be a lot more nice to be around if I've scheduled in that training in the morning. And there's also actually, that's the thing with I do want to finish on this, and I recognize you probably want to wrap this up, but when I drop in places, because I think we talked about that kind of earlier in this episode, that's accountability for me, because once I'm there, like I'm like, bloody bit of train, right? So the good example I was up at CrossFit Aylesbury recently, recording with Owen, who's the head coach and co-owner there, and like, we chatted for hours because that's what I do, but I still then made the time to squeeze in doing the chief just before that, so the kind of 5 rounds of 3 minutes on, 1 minute off, power cleans, press ups and air squats. A horrible workout, but I could have been like, oh, I'll train when I go home, but no, I was like, I'm there. So yeah, if I could be in a box for like 2 hours, I think I'd be training more. So
I think you could say, if I could be in a box for 2 hours, I think there'd be an hour and 50 minutes of conversation, and I'd squeeze in a 10-minute AMRAP at the end.
Oh yeah, no, definitely, yeah. So,
nice. But I guess ultimately is, what I was saying, it's kind of that balancing act, right? We all know it's important, and it might be important for different reasons. We might be, wanting to improve so we can compete. We might be wanting just to be healthy or set a good example, whatever it is. But once you know it's important, then you find where you can fit it in. So I think it's good. It's commendable. I always think it's great that, even within the classes, you see that there are certain people, they're always there at this time of the day in a class. And there's some that, like they are always there 10:30, Monday to Friday, you'll see them there. And there's someone else that you're like, oh, I know they'll be there on Monday and I know they'll be there on Thursday. And that's what they can do. And something is always better than nothing, right? Ultimately. So, and that's whether it's something as in 20 minutes is better than 20 minutes is all you've got. You haven't got an hour. Great. 20 minutes is better than nothing. Or once or twice a week is better than no times in a week, right? So that's what I keep telling myself. And and I feel good. Well, thank you so much for this. Who knew how cathartic this chat was going to be? Some of us are looking a lot happier after than we were before. So who could that be? Shout out time. I've got to give another shout out because I said we always do that. I've dug myself this hole. I'm going to die trying to fulfill it. I would like to give a shout out to a now former guest of the podcast who was on a few weeks ago with this releasing, and that is John O'Connor, who came on for our chat about Dubai and Dubai,
or John O'Crossfit,
or John O'Crossfit, as he's better known as, who has been messaging me since then because he was, he's told me how nervous he was about coming on the podcast. But it was I thought he did a great job and we loved having him on. And I know he's a loyal listener. So thank you so much, John. And we'll definitely get you back for something else. I don't know. We'll find another thing you can be an expert on down the line. Thank you so much, Georgia, for joining us these last 2 episodes. We've appreciated your insight, which was clearly something that we were lacking in some areas. So that's great. And thank you, Sam and Tom. Hopefully I see you guys very soon, as our recording schedule is about to go crazy, I think, with things going on in life. So as we've talked about balance. But great seeing everyone. Thank you everyone for listening and following us on Instagram or supporting us in tagging us in things, sharing the episode. If that's probably the best way you can support us is just, I was going to say, tell someone about the podcast so they can listen. Better than that, take their phone and download the podcast. And if you want to just quickly download the whole back catalog, we appreciate that. If you want to tell them you've done that, great. If not, just it's a nice surprise for them one day when they find it. So you can do that as well.
Open their Spotify, they've already got it.
Yeah. Brilliant. Well, thanks everyone, and see you all around the plate stack very soon, I hope.
Cheers all.
Ciao, bye.